Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast, a podcast all about growing your network and building your brand through traditional and digital networking techniques. I'm Nancy Marshall, the PR Maven and CEO of Marshall Communications. I've been strengthening brands through PR for over 35 years, and now I'm celebrating the success of executives, influencers, business owners, and entrepreneurs from all around the world, all of whom have cultivated their brands and broadened their networks through traditional and digital networking methods. Each week, I interview one of these interesting and influential individuals and provide an opportunity for you, the PR Maven Nation, to gain insights from their strategies and stories. So stay tuned for this week's episode, and thanks for listening. Welcome to the PR Maven Podcast. I'm doing episode number 85 from my home office in Portland, Maine. It's a beautiful day out. The sun is shining, and it's the month of March 26th. So the days are long, and the promise of a warmer spring is coming. But we're in the midst of this worldwide pandemic. And 2 weeks ago, I didn't even know the definition of the word pandemic. Someone said, oh, yes, we're going to be having a pandemic. And I had to look up what was the difference between a pandemic and an epidemic on my phone. And I learned that actually pandemic means that it is a worldwide epidemic, which I don't believe we've ever had before. My mother, who people call Oma, did a paper when she was in high school about the bubonic plague. And actually, I think she saved that paper, and I think I read it when I was in high school. So this coronavirus pandemic is the closest thing to the bubonic plague that I've known about in my lifetime. And it's sort of a surreal time. For many of us, we don't really know how to feel about it. Hopefully, everyone who's listening has been healthy and their families are healthy. And that's really the thing we need to be most concerned about, is the health of our family, our friends, our customers, our vendors, and the people in our network. And that's what I'm going to talk about during this solo cast, is ways that we need to be thinking and acting and behaving and communicating as communicators during a worldwide pandemic. But first, I want to show my gratitude. I am incredibly grateful for my listeners in PR Maven Nation. I want to thank you for your time. I know that everyone has limited time, and there are so many choices of podcasts. So thank you for choosing the PR Maven podcast. I know that we're in a terrible time of despair and anxiety, and I just hope you are all doing okay. I have to say that this pandemic is bringing out my obsessive compulsive tendencies. So last night I was sitting on the floor with a roll of paper towels and my antibacterial spray, and I was cleaning the vent that goes from indoors to outdoors, and it has all these different layers that open and close. And as I was sitting there cleaning this, I was thinking, wow, what has happened to me? Because that's not something I would normally be doing on a weekday night at 8:00. But I am cleaning. I'm washing my hands a lot, hoping everyone else is also washing their hands. But even when I see people cough on television, if they're coughing into their hands, God forbid, it really gets me going. And it brings about this general sense of anxiety that we're all feeling. So one thing that has added some levity in my day is my 86-year-old mother, who we call Oma. She has a great sense of humor. And when I call her on the phone, I go and stand outside of her assisted living apartment and call her on the phone. And she says that she feels like she's in jail and she just can't wait to bust out of jail. And she says that someday she might just like run down the hall and bust out. But that's kind of hysterical because she can't even walk barely. She walks with trouble, even with a walker. So she just feels like she's alone in her apartment. Normally she goes into the dining room and sits with other people to eat, but they're bringing their meals into their apartments to keep them all isolated in her assisted living home, which is a good thing because there are other assisted living homes and nursing homes where a lot of people are getting sick right now. So working remotely is very difficult for especially an extrovert like me. I'm about as extroverted as they come. And in a way, though, I don't have the normal fear of missing out or hashtag FOMO that I normally have when I miss events and functions and things. I'm actually getting things done, like, for example, inbox zero. I'm moving in the direction of getting my inbox cleaned out, organizing my paper file folders on my desk and in my desk drawers and file cabinets. When I do that, I always feel like I'm playing school, which I did a lot of when I was a kid. I've been writing letters to family, friends, and business contacts. I really enjoy writing and receiving letters, and that dates back to when I was a kid, when I used to just run to to the mailbox at the end of our driveway every day when the mailman came to see if I got a letter from one of my pen pals. I always had pen pals around the world, and I actually still do because I correspond with a lot of my friends and relatives that are across the country and around the world. I've also been meditating. There is an app that I highly recommend called Calm, which I started using when I had knee surgery in 2017. They offer these daily meditations, and it helps to quiet a busy mind, which I don't know about you, but I definitely have a very, very busy mind. And this Calm app has been a lifesaver. There are also online courses that I want to take, and I am actually even creating some online courses as well, so stay tuned for those. I also have a book that, I published my first book, PR Works, several years ago, and I have another book about growing your brand and growing your network that is written, but I just need to do some final edits on it and then get that published. So who knows, if this pandemic continues and we have to work at home for much longer, I'm going to get so much done, which feels really good. Unless, of course, I just start binge watching the TV shows that I've been hearing about, and I write down the names of the shows that other people recommend. And I don't do a lot of TV watching normally, but I definitely have been watching more in the recent past since I've been working at home. But I'm going to share my 10 tips for communicating during a crisis right now. I'm delivering these 10 tips in a webinar tomorrow for an organization called Portland Buy Local that encourages people to buy local products and services. So I'm going to share them first with you here. So the number one rule in any crisis is to show compassion for the victims of the crisis. So people are sick, and some people are even dying right now. And this is a serious worldwide health crisis. So if you think you have it tough because you have to stay home or you have to sit on your couch and binge watch TV, if you have your health, you have everything. So please reach out to people who may not be healthy or whose family members aren't healthy. Show compassion for those in the community who have the virus or who are impacted by the virus, and do what you can to help them. Showing compassion is rule number one. Number 2 is to make something I call a network map. And I'm going to have a template for one of my network maps in the show notes. A network map essentially puts you or your organization in the center, and then it has nodules or bubbles all around you or your organization where you would list all of the people or groups that you are affiliated with. So, of course, first would come your family members, and then your friends, and then your neighbors, and your customers, your vendors, your strategic partners, your employees, your organizations that you belong to. I belong to the Women's Presidents Organization, which is a worldwide network of women who are presidents of companies. I also belong to the Agency Management Institute, which is a national organization of advertising and PR agency owners. I also belong to the YMCA. So I have contacts who work at the Y and who go to the Y. You may also belong to church groups or social clubs. So on this network map, you would list all these various constituencies, essentially. And then I want you to think about how you are communicating with all the people in those various organizations. And there's a lot of different ways to communicate with them, both as a group, whether you've got a massive email list, for example, or an email newsletter, or you're communicating through Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. But there's also individual one-to-one communications that are vitally important right now, such as handwritten letters sent in the mail or phone calls. I got a phone call last night from my college roommate, Cindy, who I've been friends with since I was 19 years old. And that's a long time that we've been friends. And last night, we just laughed, and we spent an hour on the phone. And it was just the most wonderful and rejuvenating conversation. So reach out to people who you haven't spoken with for a while. Now is the time that you need to keep those connections strong. Number 3 is to make a message map. And again, I'm going to show a sample of a message map in the show notes, but essentially this would be on a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper, and you're going to have a key message at the center, which essentially is a 7-second soundbite. And right now, your key message should show concern for your family, your employees, your customers, your clients, your vendors, your partners, your friends, your neighbors during this pandemic. But hopefully when the pandemic is over, you're going to be, again, showing concern for people in your network and expressing how you care for them. So one way of thinking about it is an XYZ statement, which is we do X for Y so they can Z. So in the example of Marshall Communications, we provide public relations and marketing services to clients in the travel and tourism and economic development sector so that they can grow and achieve their marketing and PR goals. That's an example of an XYZ statement, which would be the key message on your message map. And then you have all of your supporting messages around that, or what we call proof points. Now, one rule in a crisis like we are in right now is to cease all non-relevant publicity or product launches. So now would not be the time to launch a new product or service or, put out press releases about something new and different you're doing. Now is the time that it's all hands on deck. Everyone around the world really should be, I was just going to say we should be joining hands, but we should be symbolically joining hands to do what we can to help the cause, to help each other. Number 4 is to keep your social media current. I've had the experience just in the past couple of days of going to stores to get some vital, very important supplies. And I thought that these stores were open till 6 o'clock because it said on their Facebook or their website that they are open to 6 o'clock. But when I've gotten there, I've discovered they've actually closed early and they didn't put it online. So make sure your website is up to date with your current hours. Make sure your social media is current. And if you are closed, you should put that on your social media. But you need to respond to people. If you have a Facebook page or an Instagram page or you're on Twitter, now is the time when it's vitally important that you stay on top of messages from people and show that you care about them and care about the relationship. There's a fish market in my neighborhood called Harbor Fish, and I really just so value them and the fresh fish that they offer. And I've developed this relationship with them just for the past several days where I've been sending messages through Facebook about how much I appreciate them. And my relationship with them has gotten so much stronger, and my loyalty to them has gotten so much stronger just in the past several days because they have someone who's really responsive on Facebook, and I so appreciate that. Number 5 is to think about the message that your physical plant or your building, if you have a storefront or an office, how does it look from the outside? Even if your business is closed, how does your building look when people look in the windows? I've been walking around and looking in, for example, restaurants that are closed. And it's almost as if people just like put their coat on and walked out the door and just left the place looking kind of in shambles. And that just sends a signal that you don't really care. You need to care about cleanliness right now more than ever. Again, I talked about my OCD tendencies to keep things clean right now. But if you have an office or store, even if it's closed, now is the time to make sure that it looks neat, clean, and organized. And also, if you have temporary signage on your door saying that you're closed because of the COVID-19 virus, that signage should be branded. It should have your logo on it, and your messaging should be consistent, especially about your hours and your telephone number and how people can reach you. Again, reaching your people, your networks through social media is probably the most efficient, and you should really stay on top of any social media that you have. If you started an account on something like TikTok or Snapchat and you're not paying attention to it, then shut it down. Because if you have accounts that are not being attended to or kept up to date, that's going to hurt your brand more than anything. So pay attention to all of the social networks that you're part of. Number 6 is now is the time to make plans for coming back stronger than ever when things get open and when people are healthy and we're reverting, I was going to say reverting to normal, but I think there's going to be a new normal. And hopefully it's going to be a brighter future. So now is the time to tend to your back burner projects. I know for me, I have a really long list of things that I haven't gotten to because I'm typically so busy going to networking events and social events, and I'm usually kind of away from home doing my social and professional networking. So now's the time to get to those back burner projects. For me, that's launching my online course on message mapping, which I hope to launch soon, and publishing my second book on growing your brand and growing your network. I have many other things on my list, books to read, movies to watch, TV shows to watch, blog posts I want to write. So now is the time to get in a routine, a productive routine. You're going to feel so good, especially if you stay healthy, and hopefully you do. Hopefully you are taking care of yourself and you're going to stay healthy and you can stay productive. So number 7 is what can you do to help the cause? Now's the time to do something to help your community, your city, your state, our nation, our world. How can you give back? It's like during World War II when people would help the war effort. So I have a friend who has a company up in Skowhegan, Maine, where they make protective clothing for dogs, actually, like dog vests for hunting season so that they can be visible. It's called Dog Not Gone. But they have these people that do stitching and they have sewing machines. And so they're making face masks and other protective gear that are badly needed right now by hospitals and medical professionals. Greg, Glenn, and I from my company are doing this webinar tomorrow to help small businesses to better communicate during a crisis. So that's how we're giving back. How can you give back? You're going to feel really good about yourself and your company if you give back at this time when it's so badly needed. Rule number 8 is to communicate. Now is not the time to go dark. If you have an email list, which you definitely should have, now is the time to start sending email updates. I have a friend, Tabitha Swanson, who has an accounting company, and she has been sending out these amazing daily email updates with updates on tax laws and tax returns and filing for unemployment and other ways that you can access emergency money in this time of crisis. And she has really differentiated herself from most accountants who are really right now just heads down trying to get tax returns done. And I really admire Tabitha Swanson for stepping up and communicating on a daily basis. Or there's also a yoga studio in Portland on the east end of Portland, Maine called Lila Yoga, and they're doing daily online yoga classes. And that's another thing that's on my to-do list I haven't gotten to yet, but I hope to do one of those online yoga classes because actually I've been wanting to go to that yoga studio. I haven't gotten there, but I've heard how amazing it is. And their online yoga classes are a way for me to try it out. So this is a time for leaders to give hope and optimism to people. Don't be a Pollyanna and try to paint a fake and artificial picture of how things are because we are in a crisis, but now is the time to show people you care. And again, I'm going to beat the drum of handwritten notes. Now is the time to sit down and send a handwritten note to someone you care about because that is an enduring way to show that you care. I know I keep file folders and drawers full of handwritten notes that people have sent to me, and it makes me feel good to go back and look at them. Number 9, is your website up to date? There are so many reasons to keep your website updated, but the analogy is it's kind of like cleaning up your restaurant before you close. So if people look in the windows, it looks like you care about your restaurant. Google wants to know that you care about your website. So before Google is going to send visitors there who are searching for what you have to offer, you need to show Google that you care about your website enough to make sure the phone number is visible because right now a lot of times people want to call to make sure you're open before they come to your place of business. Are your services clearly stated or your products clearly displayed on your website? What can take a look at your website with outside eyes or have someone else look at your website and make sure it is updated. And during this COVID-19 crisis, perhaps you want to have a message on the homepage of your website telling people that you care. On marshallpr.com, we posted a special message that we're working remotely, but we are still open and we are serving our clients and we are here for them if they need us. So communicating online is so vital right now. I think people are working from home and they're spending more time online, and that's how people are making their connections socially. And remember, we are social creatures, so we need to feel connected, and we want information online that is up to date, current, and relevant. Number 10 is to stay calm. Even though it may feel like your world is falling apart, there is always someone with more problems than you who needs you to be calm. So please take care of yourself. Get plenty of sleep. Now is a great time to get plenty of sleep. Drink lots of water. Don't drink too much alcohol. Believe me, there's memes going around about people like just breaking into their own liquor cabinets and drinking all the alcohol, but now's not the time for that. Show your family and your closest friends that you love them and you care about them. And also allow others to show that they love you too. Accept the love of others. So I want you to be well, and I especially want to show my gratitude for you. I'm going to share this list of 10 tips on the show notes for the PR Maven podcast, and I hope that you'll use them and maybe add your own. So go to the Facebook page for PR Maven Nation, and you'll find a link for this top 10 list. I hope that you'll use it and share your own tips. And if you like this podcast, here's how you can help. You can join PR Maven Nation on Facebook, because that's where I bring together everyone under the PR Maven Nation umbrella. And please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast player. And if you like the podcast, please share it with a friend. And that's the best kind of marketing, really, is word of mouth marketing. And again, I am so grateful. I hope you're well. I hope you stay well. And I hope you take care of your people and your network. Thanks, and have a great week, PR Maven Nation.
That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank you for listening, and if you feel that you've gotten value out of today's conversation, consider leaving a 5-star review on iTunes or whatever app you're using to tune in. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should do so. I release a new episode each week, and subscribing will make sure you get an alert when there's a new episode. You can also join the PR Maven Nation by going to prmaven.com/nation and clicking join. It's free, and it's a great community of like-minded individuals who are all looking to learn and grow from one another. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, be sure to add the PR Maven Marketing Minute to your daily flash briefing menu. Thanks again for listening, and have a great rest of your week, PR Maven Nation.